Then the Lord, having risen early and dressed, took his robe and bowl and went into Vesali for alms. Having returned from the alms round and eaten, he looked back at Vesali with his elephant look and said, Ananda, this is the last time that the Tathagata will look upon Vesali. Now we will go to Bandagama. Very good Lord, said Ananda. And the Lord proceeded with a large company of monks to Bandagama and stayed there. And there the Lord addressed the monks. These monks, through not understanding, not penetrating, 4 things that I as well as you have for a long time fed on round the cycle of rebirths. What are the 4? Through not understanding the Aryan morality, through not understanding the Aryan concentration, through not understanding the Aryan wisdom, through not understanding the Aryan liberation, I as well as you have for a long time fed on round the cycle of rebirths. And it is by understanding and penetrating the Aryan morality, the Aryan concentration, the Aryan wisdom, and the Aryan liberation that the craving for becoming has been cut off. The tendency towards becoming has been exhausted, and there will be no more rebirth. Thus the Lord spoke. The wayfarer having thus spoken, the teacher said this: morality, concentration, wisdom, and final release. These glorious things Gautama came to know. The Dhamma he discerned, he taught his monks. He whose vision ended war to Nibbana is gone. Stop here for a moment. This Sila, Samadhi, Panya, moral conduct, concentration. I was saying this Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Moral conduct, concentration, and wisdom basically means a noble eightfold path. The 8 factors of the noble eightfold path can be also divided into 3 factors. And the last one is liberation. Then the Lord was staying at Bandagama, delivered a comprehensive discourse. This is morality, this is concentration, this is wisdom. Concentration, when imbued with morality, brings great fruit and profit. Wisdom, when imbued with concentration, brings great fruit and profit. The mind imbued with wisdom becomes completely free from the asavas, that is, from the asava of sensuality, of becoming, of wrong views, and of ignorance. And when the Lord had stayed at Bandagama for as long as he wished, he said, Ananda, let us go to Hatigama, and then to Ambagama, and then to Jambugama, giving the same discourse at each place. Then he said, Ananda, let us go to Boganagara. Very good Lord, said Ananda. And the Lord went with a large company of monks to Boganagara. At Boganagara, the Lord stayed at the Ananda shrine. And here he said to the monks, Monks, I will teach you 4 criteria. Listen, pay close attention, and I will speak. Yes, Lord, replied the monks. Suppose a monk were to say, Friends, I heard and received this from the Lord's own lips. This is Dhamma, this is Vinaya, this is the Master's teaching. Then, monks, you should neither approve nor disapprove his words. Then, without approving or disapproving, his words and expressions should be carefully noted and compared with the suttas and reviewed in the light of the Vinaya. If they, on such comparison and review, are found not to conform to the suttas or the Vinaya, the conclusion must be, assuredly this is not the word of the Buddha. It has been wrongly understood by this monk, and the matter is to be rejected. But where, on such comparison and review, they are found to conform to the suttas or the Vinaya, the conclusion must be, assuredly this is the word of the Buddha. It has been rightly understood by this monk. This is the first criterion. Suppose a monk were to say, in such and such a place, there is a community of elders, theras, and distinguished teachers. I have heard and received this from that community. Then, monks, you should neither approve nor disapprove his words, but compare it with the Sutta and Vinaya. This is the second criterion. Suppose a monk were to say, in such and such a place, there are many elders who are learned, bearers of the tradition, who know the Dhamma, the Vinaya, the code of rules, etc. Then their word is not to be accepted or rejected, but compared to the suttas and the Vinaya. This is the third criterion. Suppose a monk were to say, in such and such a place there is one elder, Thera, who is learned. I have heard and received this from that elder. But where on such his words should not be accepted or rejected, but compared to the Sutta and Vinaya, where on such comparison and review they are found to conform to the Suttas and Vinaya, then the conclusion must be, assuredly this is the word of the Buddha. It has been rightly understood by this monk. Stop here for a moment. So here, this is a very important part. The Buddha says, if any monk claims that the Buddha taught this and the Buddha taught that, you should not accept, you should not reject, but you must compare it with the Suttas and the Vinaya. You see here the Buddha in the first part, the 4.8. Suppose a monk were to say, friends, I have heard and received this from the Lord's own lips. This is Dhamma, this is Vinaya, this is the Master's teaching. You find in the Suttas and in the Vinaya books, whenever the Buddha refers to his words, he always says Sutta and Dhamma and Vinaya. Dhamma and Vinaya. And later books, they added a third one, which is Abhidhamma. That's why the word Tripitaka came into use. The Buddha never used the word Tripitaka or Tipitaka. The Buddha doesn't even know this word. It was coined by later monks. So in the Suttas and the Vinaya, we always find the Buddha says, Buddha's teaching is Dhamma Vinaya. And here you can see very clearly, Dhamma refers to the Suttas. Vinaya is the monastic discipline meant for monks and nuns. So for lay people, your only teacher is the Suttas. This is very clear. And this part is also found in the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 4.180. There also the same thing is said. So always remember, any monk teach anything, you must always compare it with the Suttas. And if you are a monk or nun, you can compare it with the Vinaya also. It does not conform to the Suttas and the Vinaya, then it is not the Buddha's words. So when you use this criterion, you find, for example, the Abhidhamma. There are many things in the Abhidhamma that contradict the Suttas. So from there, we know it is not the Buddha's words. Similarly with other later books, for example, Visuddhimagga. Although Visuddhimagga is quite a good book, but unfortunately there are certain things in Visuddhimagga which contradict the Buddha's words. One of them is, for example, in the Suttas, the Buddha says, if you practice mindfulness of breathing, Anapanasati, you can attain all the 4 Rupa Jhanas and all the 4 Arupas or Arupa Jhanas, plus the cessation of perception and feeling. All the states of Samadhi can be attained just by practicing Anapanasati. But in the Visuddhimagga, it says that if you practice Anapanasati, the most you can get 4 Rupa Jhanas. So there are many other contradictions. For example, in the Abhidhamma, they talk about 6 destinations. 6 destinations of rebirth, whereas the Buddha talk about 5 destinations of rebirth. 5 destinations of rebirth are heaven, the human realm, and the 3 woeful planes, ghost, animal, and hell realm. And then the Abhidhamma added the Asura realm under the woeful planes, just like the later Mahayana books did, the Mahayana books. So you can know from this that the Abhidhamma arose around the same time as the Mahayana books, which is 500 years after the Buddha's passing on. So always remember, I must compare with the Suttas and the Vinaya. Then the Lord, while staying at Boga Nagara, delivered a comprehensive discourse. This is morality, this is concentration, this is wisdom. And when the Lord had stayed at Boga Nagara for as long as he wished, he said, Ananda, let us go to Pava. Very good Lord, said Ananda. And the Lord went with a large company of monks to Pava, where he stayed at the mango grove of Chunda the smith. And Chunda heard that the Lord had arrived at Pava and was staying at his mango grove. Then he went to the Lord, saluted him and sat down to one side. And the Lord instructed, inspired, fired and delighted him with a talk on Dhamma. Then Chunda said, may the Lord accept a meal from me tomorrow with his Sangha of monks. And the Lord consented by silence. And Chunda, understanding his consent, rose from his seat, saluted the Lord, and passing by to the right, departed. And as the night was ending, Chunda had a fine meal of hard and soft food, prepared with an abundance of pig's delight. And when it was ready, he reported to the Lord, Lord, the meal is ready. Then the Lord, having dressed in the morning, took his robe and bowl, and went with his sangha of monks to Chunda's dwelling, where he sat down on the prepared seat and said, serve the pig's delight that has been prepared for me, and serve the remaining hard and soft food to the sangha of monks. Very good, Lord, said to Chunda, and did so. Then the Lord said to Chunda, whatever is left over of the pig's delight, you should bury in the pit, because Chunda, I can see none in this world with its devas, maras and brahmas, in this generation with its ascetics and brahmins, its princes and people, who, if they were to eat it, could thoroughly digest it, except the Tathagata. Very good, Lord, said Chunda, and having buried the remains of the pig's delight in a pit, he came to the Lord, saluted him and sat down to one side. Then the Lord, having inspired, fired and delighted him with a talk on Dhamma, rose from his seat and departed. And after having eaten the meal provided by Chunda, the Lord was attacked by a severe sickness with bloody diarrhea and with sharp pains as if he were about to die. But he endured all this mindfully and clearly aware, and without complaint. Then the Lord said, Ananda, let us go to Kusinara. Very good, Lord, said Ananda. Having eaten Chunda's meal, this I've heard, he suffered a grave illness, painful, deathly. From eating a meal of pig's delight, grave sickness assailed the teacher. Having purged, the Lord then said, now I'll go to Kusinara's town. Stop here for a moment. This pig's delight, here is translated as according to the Pali, pig's delight. But then the Mahayanis, they could not accept that the Buddha ate meat. So they gave a different translation that it was something to do with some vegetarian food, mushroom, something. So here, the Buddha knew that after this meal, he was going to pass away. And this meal is a very special meal. So the Buddha said, nobody else can digest this meat. Because actually, for somebody to offer, later the Buddha will say, for somebody to offer the last meal to the Buddha is as meritorious as the person who offers the meal to the Buddha just before enlightenment is a highly meritorious offering. So nobody else had the merit to receive this. So the Buddha asked him to bear it. Then turning aside from the road, the Lord went to the foot of a tree and said, come Ananda, fold a robe in four for me. I am tired and want to sit down. Very good, Lord, said Ananda, and did so. The Lord sat down on the prepared seat and said, Ananda, bring me some water. I am thirsty and want to drink. Ananda said, Lord, 500 carts have passed this way. The water is churned up by their wheels and is not good. It is dirty and disturbed. But Lord, the river Kakuta nearby has clean water, pleasant, cool, pure, with beautiful banks, delightful. There the Lord shall drink the water and cool his limbs. A second time the Lord said, Ananda, bring me some water. I am thirsty and want to drink. Ananda replied as before. Third time the Lord said, Ananda, bring me some water. I am thirsty and want to drink. Very good, Lord, said Ananda. And taking his bowl, he went to the stream. And that stream whose water had been churned up by the wheels and was not good, dirty and disturbed, as Ananda approached it, began to flow pure, bright and unsullied. And the verbal Ananda thought, wonderful, marvelous are the Tathagata's great and mighty powers. This water was churned up by the wheels and was dirty, and at my approach it flows pure, bright and unsullied. He took water in his bowl, brought it to the Lord, and told him of his thoughts, saying, may the Lord drink the water, may the wayfarer drink. And the Lord drank the water. Stop here for a moment. The Devas work. They made the water clean, the dirty water clean. At that moment, Pukusa, the Mala, the pupil of Alara Kalama, was going along the main road from Kusinara to Pava. Seeing the Lord sitting under a tree, he went over, saluted him and sat down to one side. Then he said, "It is wonderful, Lord, it is marvelous, how calm these wanderers are." Once Lord Alara Kalama was going along the main road, and turning aside, he went and sat down under a nearby tree to take his siesta. And 500 carts went rumbling by very close to him. A man who was walking along behind them came to Alara Kalama and said, "Lord, did you not see 500 carts go by?" And he said, "No, friend, I did not." "But didn't you hear them, Lord?" And he said, "No, friend, I did not." "Well, were you asleep, Lord?" And he said, "No, friend, I was not asleep." "Then, Lord, were you conscious?" And he said, "Yes, friend." "So, Lord, being conscious and awake, you neither saw nor heard 500 carts passing by close to you, even though your outer robe was bespattered with dust." And he said, "That is so, friend." And that man thought, "It is wonderful, it is marvelous. These wanderers are so calm that though conscious and awake, a man neither saw nor heard 500 carts passing close by him." And he went away praising Alara Kalama's lofty powers. And the Buddha said, "Well, Pukusa, what do you think? What do you consider is more difficult to do or attain to? While conscious and awake, not to see or hear 500 carts passing nearby, or while conscious and awake, not to see or hear anything when the rain god streams and splashes, when lightning flashes and thunder crashes." And he said, "Lord, how can one compare not seeing or hearing 500 carts with that? Or even 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10, 100 or hundreds of thousands of carts to that? To see or hear nothing when such a storm rages is more difficult." And the Buddha said, "Once, Pukusa, when I was staying at Atuma at the threshing floor, the rain god streamed and splashed, lightning flashed and thunder crashed, and 2 farmers, brothers, and 4 oxen were killed. And a lot of people went out of Atuma to where the 2 brothers and the 4 oxen were killed. And Pukusa, I had at that time gone out of the door of the threshing floor and was walking up and down outside. And a man from the crowd came to me, saluted me and stood to one side, and I said to him, 'Friend, why are all these people gathered here?' And he said, 'Lord, there has been a great storm, and 2 farmers, brothers, and 4 oxen have been killed. But you, Lord, where have you been?' And the Buddha said, 'I have been right here, friend.' 'But what did you see, Lord?' And the Buddha said, 'I saw nothing, friend.' 'Or what did you hear, Lord?' The Buddha said, 'I heard nothing, friend.' 'Were you sleeping, Lord?' The Buddha said, 'I was not sleeping, friend.' 'Then, Lord, were you conscious?' And the Buddha said, 'Yes, friend.' 'So, Lord, being conscious and awake, you neither saw nor heard the great rainfall and floods and the thunder and the lightning.' And the Buddha said, 'That is so, friend.' And Pukusa, that man thought, 'It is wonderful, it is marvelous. These wanderers are so calm that they neither see nor hear when the rain god streams and splashes, lightning flashes and thunder crashes.' Proclaiming my lofty powers, he saluted me, passed by to the right and departed. At this, Pukusa the Mala said, 'Lord, I reject the lofty powers of Alara Kalama as if they were blown away by a mighty wind or carried off by a swift stream or river. Excellent, Lord, excellent. It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who had got lost, or to bring an oil lamp into a dark place so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so the Blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways. And I, Lord, go for refuge to the Blessed Lord, the Dhamma and the Sangha. May the Blessed Lord accept me from this day forth as a lay follower as long as life shall last.' Then Pukusa said to one man, 'Go and fetch me 2 fine sets of robes of cloth of gold, burnished and ready to wear.' 'Yes, Lord,' the man replied, and did so. And Pukusa offered the robes to the Lord, saying, 'Here, Lord, are 2 fine sets of robes of cloth of gold. May the Blessed Lord be graciously pleased to accept them.' 'Well then, Pukusa,' the Buddha said, 'clothe me in one set and Ananda in the other.' 'Very good, Lord,' said Pukusa, and did so. Then the Lord inspired, fired and delighted Pukusa the Mala with a talk on Dhamma. Then Pukusa rose from his seat, saluted the Lord, passed by to the right and departed. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that he was in Samadhi and there was lightning and thunder and all that. The trees came crashing down and 2 people died and 4 oxen died and the Buddha didn't hear a single sound. So he was in very deep Samadhi. And this last part where this Pukusa offered this set of robes, cloth of gold, this and the Buddha accepted. We find when the Buddha was younger, he was very ascetic. He practiced the austerities. When he was younger, he probably would not accept this set of robes with cloth of gold. But now he was old already. Then he accepted it and even asked Pukusa to offer the other to Ananda. So this is quite normal for monks. When we are young, monks are young, we are very inspired to practice and to be very strict. Sometimes go overboard also with the strictness. And later as we mellow, then we mellow. We know what is important, what is not important. Soon after Pukusa had gone, actually this Buddha, he accepts these robes not because he wants to use them, but out of compassion for Pukusa, so that he can get the merit. Probably after Pukusa has left, he'll probably put the robe one side or give to somebody else. Soon after Pukusa had gone, Ananda, having arranged one set of the golden robes on the body of the Lord, observed that against the Lord's body it appeared dull. And he said, "It is wonderful, Lord, it is marvelous, how clear and bright the Lord's skin appears. It looks even brighter than the golden robes in which it is clothed." And the Buddha said, "Just so, Ananda, there are 2 occasions on which the Tathagata's skin appears especially clear and bright. Which are they? One is the night in which the Tathagata gains supreme enlightenment. The other is the night when he attains the Nibbana element without remainder at his final passing. On these 2 occasions, the Tathagata's skin appears especially clear and bright. Tonight, Ananda, in the last watch, in the sal grove of the Malas near Kusinara, between 2 sal trees, the Tathagata's final passing will take place. And now, Ananda, let us go to the river Kakuta." "Very good, Lord," said Ananda. 2 golden robes were Pukusa's offering. Brighter shone the teacher's body than its dress. Stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha says there are 2 times when the Buddha's skin is especially clear and bright. One is on the night of enlightenment. The other is when he's passing away, on the night of his passing away. In some other sutta we had read that when the Buddha was old, remember Ananda observed that the Buddha looked old and his skin was wrinkled and he did not have the brightness that he used to have. But now that he's entering Nibbana, this brightness comes back again. It's very different with certain monks. I've heard when they are younger, they are very good samadhi, and some people say they even have psychic powers and all that. But some of them, when they are old, unfortunately, it seems they even lose their memory. Not the Buddha. When the Buddha was very old, the Buddha said, you can question, even the Buddha was about 80 years old. The Buddha said, his body has deteriorated, but don't think that his mind has deteriorated. The Buddha said, you can continue to ask him questions for another 100 years, and he can still answer everything clearly. So here the Buddha said in the last watch, meaning from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Every night is divided into 3 watches. The first watch, Chu Fen Ye in Chinese, is 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The middle watch is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. The last watch is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Then the Lord went with a large number of monks to the river Kakuta. He entered the water, bathed and drank, and emerging went to the mango grove, where he said to the Venerable Chundaka, "Come, Chundaka, fold a robe in four for me. I am tired and want to lie down." "Very good, Lord," said Chundaka, and did so. Then the Lord adopted the lion posture, lying on his right side, placing one foot on the other, mindfully and with clear awareness, bearing in mind the time of awakening. And the Venerable Chundaka sat down in front of the Lord. The Buddha, having gone to Kakuta, the river, with its clear, bright and pleasant waters, therein the teacher plunged his weary body, Tathagata, without an equal in the world, surrounded by the monks whose head he was, the teacher and Lord, preserver of Dhamma. To the mango grove the great sage went, and to Chundaka the monk he said, "On a fourfold robe I'll lie down." And thus adjured by the great adept, Chundaka placed the fourfold robe. The teacher laid his weary limbs to rest, while Chundaka kept watch beside him. Then the Lord said to the Venerable Ananda, "It might happen, Ananda, that Chunda the smith would feel remorse, thinking, 'It is your fault, friend Chunda. It is by your misdeed that the Tathagata gained final Nibbana after taking his last meal from you. But Chunda's remorse should be expelled in this way. That is your merit, Chunda. That is your great deed. That is your good deed, that the Tathagata gained final Nibbana after taking his last meal from you. For friend Chunda, I have heard and understood from the Lord's own lips that these two alms givings are of very great fruit, of very great result, more fruitful and advantageous than any other. Which two? The one is the alms giving, after eating which the Tathagata attains supreme enlightenment. The other, that after which he attains the Nibbana element without remainder at his final passing. These two alms givings are more fruitful and profitable than all others. Chunda's deed is conducive to long life, to good looks, to happiness, to fame, to heaven and to lordship. In this way, Ananda, Chunda's remorse is to be expelled." Then the Lord, having settled this matter, at that time uttered this verse, "By giving, merit grows. By restraint, hatred's checked. He who is skilled abandons evil things. As greed, hate and folly wane, Nibbana's gain." So here, the Buddha told Venerable Ananda to inform Chunda that he should not blame himself for offering the food that caused the Buddha to pass on. The Buddha said that it is actually very meritorious. So I'll stop here for tonight. Anything to discuss?
Before Buddha
Before the Buddha's Nibbana,
anybody would say that Buddha says so. Check on the
okay. During the Buddha's time, the suttas were transmitted from teacher to disciple, and the monks had to recite the suttas to firstly to memorize it themselves, and secondly to pass it on. So many thousands of monks knew the suttas. So it was a very good way actually to transmit the Buddha's words, because then you cannot create something new because it's easy to create a false sutra by writing in a book some new sutra and claim it's the words of the Buddha. But if it is transmitted by word of mouth and you start to teach a new sutra which the Buddha did not teach, you and maybe you and your friends, 10 of you, but there are thousands, tens of thousands of the Buddha's disciples who know the sutras by heart.
The Buddha said that there are 8 locations where the earthquakes very hard. Now that just reminded me about the earthquake in Japan. Is that something like that, or because they explain it with science, but you're into there's 8 reasons to. Does that mean anything?
I'm not sure how reliable this part about the 8 reasons for the earthquake. But sometimes in the suttas, the Buddha says certain things which a person, a normal person would find it hard to accept. An example is like the Buddha says, if humans are full of greed, hatred and delusion, and because of greed, hatred and delusion, they do a lot of evil things. And when humans do a lot of evil things, the devas get annoyed. And when the devas get annoyed, the rain gods will not allow it to rain when it's supposed to rain. And then, because the rain does not come in time, then the crops do not grow well, and then there is famine, and a lot of people die. So this type of explanation by the Buddha, a lot of normal people find it hard to accept because they can't see the devas. But the logic behind it is that because the world is created by our mind, if our mind is defiled, if our mind is unwholesome, then the world changes according to karma, and a lot of obstacles arise. But if we act with a very pure mind, actions are wholesome and not harmful to others, then the world changes in a way that makes us happy. Even heaven and hell is created by our mind. Here?
Does it apply now?
This part, you didn't read the whole thing. It's just like the monk part. The first, the Buddha said, I will not take final Nibbana till I have monks and disciples who are accomplished, trained, skilled, learned, knowers of the Dhamma, trained in conformity with the Dhamma, correctly trained and walking in the path of Dhamma, who will pass on what they have gained from their teacher, teach it, declared, etc. So, in the same way, the Buddha said, I will not take final Nibbana till I have nuns and female disciples who are accomplished, trained, skilled, learned, knowers of the Dhamma, etc. Because at that time there were nuns, but now there are no nuns, so you cannot use that part. But anyway, there is no Buddha to take Nibbana now. Okay, shall we end here?